Welcome to Retro Scale Modelling. This is part 6 of AMT Star Trek US Enterprise NCC 1701E. Scale is 1 to 1400. In this part, I'm going to be closing up the saucer section and then working on the secondary hull. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. Carrying on where I left off, it's time now to close up the saucer section. But first of all, I've just got to trim up one or two pieces. And what that means is basically I'm going to be taking off the paint that's around the rim of the inner part of the saucer section. This is just to give me a better bond. Now the cement I use, the river cement, can't eat through primer and a thin layer of paint. But because I've got lights in this, I prefer to have it on plastic to get the proper weld. So I'm just taking the sharp end of my knife and scraping it over the edges to remove the paint. And then once I do that, I'm just taking a dry brush and brushing over the areas that I've scraped off, just to get rid of any little loose bits of plastic or paint build-up. So it's completely clear and ready to be sealed. The gluing aspect, sealing, bonding, whatever terminology you like to put on it, there's a few different ways to do it. I'm doing it the standard way. I'm using my cement and placing it on. Now, I generally don't go into this because everyone thinks it's a standard practice. But there's actually many other ways you can do it. Off the bat, though, I would say using the manufacturer's recommendation cement is worthwhile doing. You can use a super glue on this, or a CA glue, the same thing, but the problem with glue like that is it doesn't hold plastic all that well, this particular type of plastic. So you will get an instant bond, but over time that bond will corrode and everything will fall apart. The cement that I'm using creates a weld, melts the plastic essentially, and then welds it all together when it dries. So there's no chance of it coming together apart easily. You know, it takes a lot for the bond then to loosen. The other way is using a filler, something like sprue glue, not a normal wood filler or anything like that, it wouldn't work, but a cement with the material inside it. That helps with paint bleed. Light bleed and gapping issues. It automatically seals up the gap, but it can be rather messy. So if you're ever unsure about what cement and things to use, just use the recommended cement for that particular model. So back to the kit, and as you can see there, I've bonded it in. There is a bit of light bleed around the edges, but that's easily sorted out, and I was expecting it as well, so that's not a problem. So once that dries, I'll go back to that. In the meantime, I'm going to be concentrating on doing the secondary hull. So I'm making up the LEDs here in the same way as I made up the ones for the saucer section. So I'm placing them on a strip of plastic art just to give them a bit of stabilisation within the actual model itself. And once it's attached to the plastic art, I'm then soldering in the solder points, or this process sometimes called tinning. Especially when you're putting the solder on the wires, and it's just putting the little blobs of solder onto the contact points ready to receive the wires. Now I'm having to be careful with this one because the contact wires are actually looping around the actual LED strips, the top and bottom. This is for space issues and how I'm going to run the ring, the electricity ring, through it. But once they're on, just doing that light test to make sure everything is there. The camera is all washed out because of the camera, but there's a strip on the front, strip on the back, and the wire loops around the edges there. So there's the first part of the wire, and where I'm pointing to with my pencil, you see it going around onto the contact on the opposite side. The next job is the deflected dish. I'm going to place this on now, so this will just give it time to dry before I'm ready to actually put it in the hull itself. So just a bit of a white glue to place it on, and there's a little whole mold there for it to clip into. So you can't get it the wrong way around. It will only go in one way. Now you'll see the bit of clear sweet wrapper on the mat there. That's going to be going on the back of it once everything is stable. It doesn't take, it only takes seconds, but to put it on. And I'm just putting it on top there, and again I'll be leaving that to dry once it's on it. You know, just a bit of shifting around it until I'm happy with it. And once it's dried, I'll then trim it all off, but only once it's dried because it's white glue, it will move quite a bit. On the outside, I'm using Revlon Aquacolor 76 light grey. Now, to be honest with you, I should have painted this before I put the clear plastic in. It would have made the painting a lot easier. I just simply forgot to do it, so I'm painting it all in now before I put the whole unit in place. So it's back to the hull, and I'm going to be dealing with the stand. So this is the socket that comes with the stand, and this has to be cut down so that I can get the lights in as well as the wire. And obviously I need that to be hollow anyway for the wires to go down. So I'm just marking it off, and I'll simply cut off the required amount. And then I'll just check it to fit to make sure I've got enough off. Always take a little bit off at a time instead of one big go. That way you won't take too much off. The next thing to do is to dry fit everything and make sure I've got enough wire. So I'm cutting the length of my wire here. So as you can see, I've held the parts together with a couple of clamps, and I've just passed through 2 lengths of wire to see how much I'm going to be using, and whether actually I'm going to have a free run with this wire. Nothing's going to get too complicated. So this is like a dry fit process, just measuring things up and making sure that I'm happy before I carry on with the next stage. Once I'm happy with the length of wire, I've taken off the sheath of the wire, and I'm just passing it through the holes or the parts of plastic that I removed previously, and pushing the wire into those gaps. Now, don't wait until you build the hull to do this. It sounds stupid, of course, why would you wait? But I've seen people do it and then try and thread through who have never done it before, thinking they can just pass the wire through. It's possible, but it's 100% difficult. I wouldn't recommend it. Do it similar to this or like this. Start placing your wires in before you join everything up. Depending on how you're going to be wiring this, is where you're going to make your contact points. In the middle of the wire, and this is one of the reasons why I dried fitted the wire was, I wanted to see where the wire would run from the main LED strips over into the warp nacelles, well, the warp pylons. So what I've done is I've taken the wire I put in, opened up the sheath, pulled it apart, and exposed the bare wire halfway down each wire, length of wire, so you can see it there. And this will be my contact points. Doing it this way as well will also stop you from having to have separate wires going up the pylon, so you would end up with 4 sets of wires instead of just the one set of wires going up between the left and right pylons. So now that I'm happy with the fit and everything's okay, I'm just adding a little bit of wire to these cross sections before everything is in place. This again is just for ease. You can do it when it's in situ, but why go through all that hassle when you can just make the connections now before you pull everything in tight. And once that's done, I've actually soldered the wires in position, and I'm just taking a little bit of electrical tape or insulating tape. It's the same thing, just a different name, and placing it around the bare wire to isolate it so nothing is going to be touching and creating a short. I'll then take those 2 connections that I made for the nacelles and pylons and attach them to the LED light strip, and in just the same way, just twisting the wire around, then they will be soldered in position, and then I'll cover it with a little bit of tape once everything is in position. The tape wise, I won't do that until near the end, because there's other bits and pieces I'll be attaching this to, like the leads that are going to be running up to the saucer section and the leads that are actually be running into the power. Now here's where I have to be careful. I don't have an option but to solder everything close to the plastic. If you feel uncomfortable doing this, put a solder mat down or some sort of heat resistant mat in between the plastic and what you're soldering. That way you won't burn the plastic or melt it. Otherwise, you just be very careful how you do it. Don't put too much solder on because you don't want it to be dripping off and a ball of solder going onto the plastic because it will burn it. So you have to be careful. So now that those things are in place, as you can see there, I put a bit of new plastic sheath on, and I'm just checking this for fit to see everything will fit down. As you can see, it's pushing down into the socket where the display stand rod is going to be. This is essential just to make sure everything fits and you know exactly where your wires are going to go. In fact, I quite like this fit, so I'm not going to play about with it. I'll probably just leave it that way. And all I have to do for this part 6, is just to get everything in place and do a simple light test to make sure everything is working. And it will just be securing the light strip with a bit of cement, but for now I'm just going to be holding it with a couple of small clamps in place, again just so that I know where everything is going to be. If you make any adjustments, just mark up with your pencil like I'm doing there, just to make sure you know where everything is going to be. I'm just going to be cutting off a little bit of that sheath so it's not too much. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit that like button. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. And I hope you do so. It really does help me out somewhat. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you in part 7. Bye bye.